Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. I make these for the enjoyment of others, so let's have some fun.
Now look, I know these two movies have been talked about together, but I wanted to give my spin on it. So sit back and relax and enjoy. The cinematic universe is rarely kind to the misunderstood genius, but no tragedy is quite as Shakespearean as the fall and rise and fall of Tony Perkis Jr. To the uninitiated, the 1995 documentary Heavyweights and the 2004 biopic Dodgeball, a true underdog story, seem like disparate tales. But to those who understand the intricate psychology of the fitness industrial complex, they are chapters in the same biography. This is the story of how the humiliated owner of Camp Hope died a metaphorical death, only to be reborn as the spandex-clad tyrant of Globo Gym, White Goodman. Part 1. The Death of Tony Perkis, 1995 to 1997. The story begins in the summer of 1995. Tony Perkis Jr., a man ahead of his time, sought to eradicate childhood obesity through the revolutionary, albeit legally dubious, Perkis system. His methods were unorthodox, canceling lunch due to lack of hustle, forced marches, the imprisonment of parents in the woods, but his vision was clear. However, history is written by the victors, and the victors in this case were a group of resourceful, overfed children led by the defiant Jerry Garner. When Tony was defeated at the Apache Relay, humiliatingly crash-landing on a grandiose stage of his own design, something snapped in his psyche. It wasn't just the physical pain of the fall, it was the rejection. His father, Tony Perkis Sr., the lighting fixture king, arrived not to comfort him, but to disown his failure. The camp was taken away. The lawsuits were filed. The end credits of Heavyweights claim Tony became a door-to-door vitamin salesman. This is true, but it was merely the purgatory before hell. Throughout 1996, Tony walked the suburbs of Pennsylvania, a broken man in a polyester suit. He was hawking Perkis power supplements that nobody wanted. The humiliation was absolute. Every door slammed in his face was a reminder of the Apache Relay. But the true horror was internal. Without the rigid structure of Camp Hope, without an audience to perform for, Tony's discipline fractured. He began to eat. It started as a coping mechanism, a slice of pizza here, a donut there, the very poison he had forbidden the campers. But Tony was a man of extremes. He didn't just snack, he binged. He was filling the void left by his father's love and his own shattered ego. By 1998, Tony Perkis Jr. had ballooned. He gained over 150 pounds. He became the very thing he hated. He became a heavyweight.
Part 2. The Chrysalis, 1998 to 2000. This period is the missing link that explains the crucial backstory of Dodgeball. In Dodgeball, White Goodman points to a photo of his former morbidly obese self and says, "That is me 6 years and 600 pounds ago." The math lines up perfectly. 6 years prior to 2004 is 1998. The photo in White Goodman's office isn't of a young child, it is of a depressed 30-something Tony Perkis living in squalor, suffocating under the weight of his failure. It was during this rock bottom that the death of Tony Perkis Sr. occurred. The lighting fixture king passed away, leaving a complicated will. He left Tony a substantial fortune, but with a stipulation. The money could only be accessed if Tony proved he was mentally sound and physically fit. The spite of his father was the spark that reignited the fire. Tony looked in the mirror. He saw the fat. He saw the failure. He saw the lunch lady mocking him from the depths of his subconscious. He realized that Tony Perkis was a poisoned brand. The name was associated with child endangerment charges and vitamin scams. To rise again, Tony Perkis had to die. He needed a new name, something that projected purity, something that projected the all-American ideal he felt he had been denied. White, pure, plain, the color of light. Goodman, a desperate affirmation, a plea to the universe, I am a good man. He went into isolation. He didn't just lose the weight, he carved it off with hatred. He took the Perkis system, stripped away the campfire kumbaya, and injected it with corporate sterility and darker science. He replaced the rustic aesthetic of Camp Hope with the chrome and neon of the future. He emerged from his chrysalis in 2001. Tony Perkis was gone. White Goodman was born.
Part 3. The Rise of GloboGym, 2001 to 2003. With his inheritance unlocked and a new identity forged, White Goodman founded GloboGym. If Camp Hope was an attempt to fix children, GloboGym was an attempt to punish adults. The slogan, "We're better than you and we know it," was a direct response to the "everyone is a winner" mentality that caused him to lose the Camp Hope war. There would be no more Apache relays where luck could intervene. There would only be raw capitalist domination. He hired a staff that reflected his trauma. Michelle Jones, the hulking silent assistant. In Tony's warped mind, Michelle was the perfect version of Lars, the European counselor from Heavyweights. Lars had failed him by succumbing to the camper's emotional manipulation, the kissing incident. Michelle was loyal, massive, and lacked the capacity for empathy. He was the Perkisizing success story Tony never got to finish. Fran, the austere Eastern European woman on the GloboGym staff. She was a surrogate for Nurse Julie from Camp Hope, but stripped of the maternal softness that Tony despised. White Goodman's obsession with Peter LaFleur and Average Joe's gym wasn't just business, it was PTSD. Peter LaFleur was the embodiment of everything Tony hated about the Camp Hope uprising. Peter was charming, slack, unmotivated, and kind to outcasts. Peter was Jerry Garner all over again, just grown up. When White looked across the street at Average Joe's, he didn't see a failing gym. He saw the bunk of chipmunks hiding candy. He saw disorder. He saw the weenies gathering to overthrow him again. This is why White was so aggressive in his acquisition attempt. It wasn't about the parking lot. It was about extinguishing the memory of 1995.
Part 4. The Dodgeball Tournament, 2004. The events of Dodgeball, a true underdog story, are a replay of the Heavyweights climax, but on a grander scale. The ADAA Las Vegas International Dodgeball Open became the new Apache Relay. The Purple Cobras. Note the animal imagery. At Camp Hope, the teams were chipmunks and Apaches. Tony/White upgraded his team to Cobras, venomous, deadly, predatory. The uniforms were purple, the color of royalty, a step up from the khaki shorts of Camp Hope. During the tournament, we see cracks in the White Goodman persona that reveal the Tony Perkis underneath. The manic intensity. When White screams, "Nobody makes me bleed my own blood," it echoes the hysteria Tony displayed when he fell into the hole in the woods. It is the reaction of a narcissist who cannot comprehend his own mortality. The food fixation. White surrounds himself with food he refuses to eat, the donuts. This is a direct callback to the neurotic control he tried to exert over the campers' diets. He taunts himself to prove his discipline, a scar from his fat years, 1996 to 1999. The psychotic break. In the locker room, White threatens Peter. His trash talk is eerily similar to the speeches Tony gave at the campfire. He talks about crushing spirits, about natural order. The final match is the ultimate trigger. When the Average Joe's team steps onto the court, White sees the ghosts of Camp Hope.
Gordon, the gentle nerd, is Nicholas. Justin, the young kid, is Josh. Steve the pirate is a manifestation of the chaos Tony cannot control, much like the character Dawson. When the match comes down to sudden death, it is a direct parallel to the go-kart race at the end of the Apache relay. It is one-on-one, the tyrant versus the charming slacker. The LaFleur flinch, the blindfold trick, worked because White Goodman is terrified of the unknown. Tony Perkis always needed to control the variables, rigging the scales, weighing the campers. When faced with a variable he couldn't see, the Peter's blindfold, he panicked. He threw too early. He crossed the line. He triggered the buzzer. That buzzer sound in Las Vegas was the same frequency as the alarm system he installed at Camp Hope. It was the sound of failure.
Part 5. The cycle completes. The end of Dodgeball shows White Goodman in a fat suit, or so the audience thinks, cursing Chuck Norris and eating fried chicken. But look closer. This isn't a fat suit for a movie gag. This is a relapse. After losing to Peter LaFleur, losing his gym, his fortune, and his pride for the second time, the White Goodman persona shattered. The discipline required to maintain his chiseled physique evaporated instantly. The trauma of the loss sent him spiraling back to 1996. He returned to the comfort of food. The curse of the cobra wasn't magic, it was metabolic. His body, starved and stressed by years of steroids and restrictive dieting, ballooned rapidly the moment he gave up. The man singing My Milkshake in the credits is not just a defeated villain. He is a man caught in a tragic, infinite loop. He tried to be Tony Perkis, the fitness messiah, and was defeated by children. He tried to be White Goodman, the corporate fitness god, and was defeated by man-children.
Part 6. The evidence in the details. If the narrative arc isn't enough, the physical evidence connecting the two films is undeniable. 1. The hair. Tony Perkis had great feathery 90s hair, but as he aged, male pattern baldness set in, a blow to his vanity. White Goodman's hair is clearly a toupee or an expensive weave. The feathering is gone, replaced by a rigid, insecure helmet of hair. 2. The catchphrases. Tony Perkis, I eat success for breakfast with skim milk. White Goodman, we're gonna go on a 24-hour success binge. The vocabulary is identical. The conflation of success with consumption or eating is a telltale sign of his eating disorder manifesting through business jargon. 3. The inflatable codpiece. In the Dodgeball DVD commentary, it's mentioned that White pumps up his crotch. This extreme insecurity about masculinity stems from his father, Tony Perkis Sr., telling him he lacked hustle and wasn't a real man like the Perkis men of old. 4. The rage. Watch the scene in Heavyweights where Tony destroys the cabin. Then watch the scene in Dodgeball where White destroys the TV screens. It is the exact same physical acting. It is the same man, 10 years older, fighting the same demons.
Conclusion: a true tragedy. So, when you watch Dodgeball, you aren't just watching a sports comedy. You are watching the sequel to Heavyweights. You are watching the final days of a man who just wanted to make the world skinny, but was driven mad by his own inability to be loved. Tony Perkis Jr. didn't die at Camp Hope. He went into hibernation, emerged as a cobra, and was finally crushed by the weight of his own hubris and a tremendous amount of fried chicken. Ben Stiller didn't play two characters. He played one man, broken by the world, trying desperately to dodge his fate, only to get hit in the face by it, again and again.
Well, that was a twist. Leave a comment with your thought. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell.
It's free and keeps you notified on all the stories to come.